Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Rabbit Hole Stories. And today we had a very jam-packed one, lot of great quotes, metaphors with Ivan from the Breez team.
Lovely guy, lives in Bulgaria,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave us his rabbit hole story, and it's quite clear that listening to his rabbit hole story, that his avenue into the Bitcoin space came as a result of quite difficult circumstances in his life. So that was an interesting thing to talk about. But we went really sort of quite deep into Lightning because he works for Breez, which is a Lightning Network platform that is non-custodial. We also spoke a lot about power projection, which is a quote from Jason Lowry, and what that means to Ivan. What else did we talk about, Joel? It was quite a jam-packed one.
We also had a very great part about sort of I'm calling them obligations in quotation marks for the audio listeners who are not watching, that we as Bitcoiners sometimes get so jam-packed into that fighting mode, fight against the FUD and stuff, that we sometimes lose scope of what the actual power behind Bitcoin is. So there was about a 20-minute, I would say, section there where we really went down that rabbit hole. And just generally speaking, the possibilities that we build on Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is inevitable. All the roads lead down
Mate,
there.
I was so bullish after that episode.
Yeah, same. It was a really cool one, and we don't want to waste any more time of you in this intro. We'll go down the rabbit hole now with Ivan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode. I can't even get my words out right, and we're at the beginning of the episode. Welcome back to Rabbit Hole Stories, where we've got the lovely Ivan with us today and our usual co-host, Joel. So thank you for joining us, Ivan. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Well, I'm very well, excited to chat with you guys. Let's see what's
Mate,
up.
not as excited as we are to chat to you. We're going to be probably going down. We're definitely going to be going down your rabbit hole, and I'm suspecting, based on the cap that you're wearing today, we might be talking a little bit about Breez and the Lightning Network. So, Ivan, again, once more, thank you for joining us on the show. As we are Rabbit Hole Stories, could you please give us an introduction as to how you discovered Bitcoin, why it is you stayed, and what is it you're doing in the ecosystem of Bitcoin today?
Yeah, I would say that I went really deep in the Once Bitten podcast about the story because it's a long one. But just to give the cliff notes here, that my story started in 2008 with the financial crisis. And because my mother was the main provider in our family, she got successful business, but the person next to her didn't actually work, and he said, just I want things. And when she had to budge, he was irritated, and that thing got escalated over years and years. And in 2013, she said, okay, I've had enough. I want a divorce. And when he found out, okay, what income I'm going to have because I'm not going to work anymore, in his psychopathic mind, he decided to kidnap and kill her. And that was in 2014. And because of that, I had to become the parent of my younger sister. She is 11 years younger. And in the span of the 3 years, in 2013, I've heard about Bitcoin, but it was a passing thought at that time. And for the 3 years, I had to deal with the fiat inheritance problems. And now that with this emotional time, how do I get the assets that my mother accumulated over her career? And not just me, but my sister. And I found out very quickly that even though my mother had a will, your will is not your will. It's what the state allows it to be. And because it didn't comply with the laws, I was very frustrated with this, that you can't leave your assets the way that you want because you worked for it, but somebody else that you have no idea why wrote a law that you can. Not only that, but is systemically exploitable from all the people that got around us because we were exposed. and took advantage of that situation and even stole some other assets. The banks blocked us to retrieve some of the things, and the whole criminal case took 7 years for even my father to be convicted. And in that whole experience, it was a very big pain, as you can imagine. But when I found out in 2019, my soulmate bought one Ethereum, and she was bugging me for a year. Let's learn about this to make money. Let's learn about. See, I made money because from £50 it became $4,000. And in December 2021, I said, I've had enough. I'm going to prove that this is wrong, that this is a scam, that this is absolutely like nothing behind it. And when I went deep into it, I found out, yes, I was absolutely true for everything crypto, but Bitcoin was different. And out of that thing, when I connected it to my personal story and what I've personally experienced, and when I heard the Jason Lowry's thesis about how Bitcoin is power projection, and when I experienced the power projection in my life, I said, okay, I am devoting my life to progress this movement, to do whatever is necessary, because I don't want other people to experience this, but really to be protected. And I bet people around the world have much, much worse stories than mine. But once we adopt the Bitcoin standard, the power projection game is finally the humanity is on one side, and it's not systemically exploitable inside of the system because it's decentralized, and it's not systemically exploitable from anybody from the outside because of the proof of work. So I'll leave it here. Lots of things said, but that's kind of in a nutshell. And yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for sharing that story with us. And it seems that your discovery of Bitcoin has come from a very traumatic experience in your life, and something that has impacted not only yourself but your family as a whole. And I'm guessing through listening to you that you've been on not only a personal journey but a journey of trying to understand what went wrong and how can you better protect yourself and your family moving forward to prevent these sort of traumatic events happening again. Would that be right in making those assumptions, Ivan?
Absolutely. And it's not that I went into, as I said, I went into trying to disprove all sorts of things, that this is absolute scam in all sorts of ways. But when I found out that this is the absolute nuclear power protection for you from all sorts of ways. And I said, okay, this was the thing that was going to help me through that period. But not only that, but if I found out deeper in 2012, 2013, maybe my mother was not going to be kidnapped and killed, and all sorts of implications. And because of the nature how it is, we are always power projecting, and when logic fails and trust fails, when we go into this brute force, whether we kill each other, whether we beat each other or whatever, that's the ultimate decider at the end. So in a sense, Bitcoin is the ultimate decider. Who is willing to put the mental effort into doing that? But not only that, some people will get lucky. They don't understand it, but they will experience what it really means to not be censorable, what it really means to protect your property, what it really means. People, even if they attack you, they can systemically exploit you, because even in the case, let's say, so many use cases about giving the wills, because it was a pain point of mine. But let's say somebody gets sick and they say you have 9 months to live. you're going to liquidate absolutely everything, put it in Bitcoin. You know that it's going to be passed to whoever you want it to be exactly the way that you want it to be, and not whatever somebody else decide or exploit you any other way. And that's a use case. Or let's say even the case where somebody is really kidnapped and say, okay, give me your Bitcoin, or I'm going to attack your children if you don't give it to me, or whatever. You may actually choose to die in order to protect your kids, and you get your Bitcoin with you in the grave, because you know if you don't pass it along to your kids, they will be safe even from those malicious actors. Like all sorts of ways that I was personally thinking about. And it's again, this is just one way, and I know that this financial crisis that is coming in the fiat system, it's going to create so many use cases where people it will create such repercussions for people that struggle, or as some particular use case, or let's say in human trafficking, or wherever it is where people will actually die. And that's why I say that the fiat system really kills, even if it doesn't go to actual nation state wars, but between individuals. But if you're in Bitcoin, Bitcoin will actually really save lives.
Especially from the whole humanitarian aspect of it all. That's really something that drives me absolutely nuts, because I remember when I came into Bitcoin, WikiLeaks was sort of still the big thing back then, right? And I was always interested in WikiLeaks. Just I was in school, I was sort of knowing in which job direction I wanted to go. And when I then would hear these things coming out of the Bitcoin narratives, or counter narrative, sorry, that, you know, it's being used by criminals, and like, oh, it's all silliness, that like it doesn't give bank accounts to women in Iran, for example, or it can't be used cross-border wise because, like, you know, every jurisdiction has other rules. That's really the thing where I think if we get the whole education behind this thing right, this is like the 10xer in my book. I have to be honest, I'm a bit biased because I'm interested in these kind of topics. But whenever I see also now at Bitcoin Miami, we talk about, you know, price charts and all of these things. And sometimes I'm a bit, it's all relative, because at the end of the day, I want that people who are fleeing tyrannies or like super repressive countries, that they can take that stuff and go. One of our future guests, he actually told in a different podcast, they had to buy a car, ship it to England from Africa just to keep their wealth. Couple of years ago, like 10, 20 years ago. Imagine that, like, you have to physically ship something and hope that it doesn't break just to have a shot in the future. And I think if you look at Bitcoin this way and still don't get it, either something's wrong with you, or it's like you said, Ivan, you're heavily profiting off the fiat system.
Yeah. And I would say even me, I was ignoring signals from the Bitcoin bull market for intensively, because you're trying to put it in a framework that you think you know. But this is comparing horses to cars, comparing electricity to candles. Like, it's a completely different thing. And if you come with your biases about what it is, and you hear bits and pieces here and there, that even somebody that thinks that they know, it's whatever. If you say is digital gold, yeah, like maybe, but not really. Like, these are just small bits and pieces to attract attention, but the conversation is much, much deeper. And unless you compare it to, I would say, at least 10 or 11 verticals, so you can have 10 or 11 metaphors and comparison methods to it, then you can start grasping this whole new system, because there's nothing before it. Because I never thought about what is actually money. But even if you think what is money and you explain all those properties, even that I would say is not enough to explain Bitcoin, because of this part projection game or the technology aspect of it. Like, so many things are in this. So yeah, like unless you invested like thousands of hours to really grasp it in all sorts of ways, you know nothing. So yeah.
This is part of the reason why we called the podcast Rabbit Hole Stories, because the longer you spend in Bitcoin, the more you start to realize that the rabbit hole is endless, and the more you dig, the more you discover, the more you understand, and the more you think, oh, and you have to rethink everything over again in a way. So you're constantly reevaluating your narrative, and what Bitcoin does, I think what we're all trying to do as Bitcoiners, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, guys, but I think that we're trying to learn a new concept. We're trying to find the language to explain this new concept, and things like digital gold come up because that's the kind of thing that people try to sort of tie it against the current language we have, but it doesn't quite fit. So we're trying to find we're trying to evolve into the space, and yeah, that's all I really had to say. What do you think, Ivan?
I would say all those are important because you can't, in the same conversation, say, okay, Bitcoin is electricity and cryptography and money and power projection and this and that and like all those. Like you have to explain them individually, and unless you talk to the particular group that understands one vertical, I would say this is the door or the window to get them in because they understand that vertical in the fiat system. And now you can start comparing it. Oh, you're sending money overseas. Oh, how long does it take? Oh, what are the fees? Like all sorts of things. And now you can say, oh, compare it to this. And they may open the window to start talking about all those other stuffs. So yeah, all of those things, it's very important, the educational aspect, because it's a completely different mind shift, because it's like right now we are in Europe and we use centimeters, kilometers, like meters. If we go in the US, like we have to completely shift into inches. Like I don't know how to deal with that, but in order to really understand it and to be native to you, it's a completely mind shift. It's not, oh, I have to this inch, I have to remeasure it into centimeters every single time. That's not efficient in that network there.
Yeah, and then you get to the UK, Ivan, and we take centimeters and meters for distances, but we take miles per hour for how fast you're going. So we're more fucked. We
Yeah.
mix everything up here.
And we drive
yeah.
on the left-hand side of the road as well.
That as well, yeah, obviously. Look out for the wrong
Yeah.
side and get killed by a car. But I think you also mentioned one particular point that, to me, I think we often lose scope of these things with Bitcoin because we're always in defense mode. We always have to fight against, mining FAT or currency FAT or whatever it is. Bitcoin not being scalable, we'll get to that in a second. And we kind of lose sight of things that if everyone starts contributing to the space in whatever ability they can, like I, for example, can tell stories and I can break things down very easily. Other people can code, right? Others are electricians and can fix ASICs, whatever. The more we do this and the more we bring these perspective in, the more it actually shows the power of Bitcoin. And it was intended to be a peer-to-peer electronic payment system, but it sort of turned out to be almost like a second internet. And I'm not meaning this on like an application layer, but really it can be everything you want it to be. And no one's telling you how you should do it. There are a few people who want to influence you, but fuck them, put them aside and find your own path. And I think that's one of the beauties you see with Bitcoin. And you see it on all fronts. Like, just look at the BTC Miami event. You get candidates running for office in America. You can think about this what you want from totally different sides of the spectrum, and they both unite there and think like Bitcoin is a way to find a solution. And I think that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah, because why the rabbit hole has no bottom? First of all, because money touches everything. Like absolutely everything in the human aspects, money touches it. If it's not enough for the human aspect, power is life. So those two things if you figure out all the aspects of power and all the aspects of money, like good luck. That's why you have to narrow your focus on what are you passionate about, what are your particular skills at. So that's your entry into Bitcoin, and it will touch absolutely everybody because money touches absolutely everything. You may not have the pressure to adopt it now or to learn about it now or whatever your circumstances may be, but the time is coming. Like absolutely nobody will escape the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Like it's sucking everybody out of necessity, if not out of proactive action, and it will absolutely happen. And yeah, like I'm so glad that so many people that were stolen from the most, and now you see how really nature and life works. So many things. I always consider myself not an average person or even dumb person, but when you open this door and start researching, you really feel humbled and realize I knew nothing,
Yes,
absolutely
yes.
nothing,
Right.
and
Yeah. I think
yeah.
everyone has that moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and it's very hard for somebody to be forced into admitting it because they
Mhm.
feel attacked. But that's why it's kind of proactive or out of necessity. You can't force for orange pill somebody. I mean, I've done it so many times, but it's not effective. Uh, 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 I would say that's a very weak link for that person to sell out because something shakes their like belief about Bitcoin, what I foretell them, and in the first chance that they have, they leave. And
Yes.
that proves what they believe. And at some
Mhm.
point, they'll come back out of necessity because they have a crisis, or they can compare it to a crisis, like in my case, because I
Mhm.
wasn't force
Mhm.
filled and I was actively avoiding it, like for a
Mhm.
year. And when I went into it, I can compare it again to my personal crisis and find out, okay, this is a solution to that. So that's why it's so important. And everybody will be orange pilled out of that. Even in Canada, when they block their account, right now people have Bitcoin, not understanding why, but only from the knowledge that when everything failed, then Bitcoin was working. And they have that just in case, because they, again, compare it to a crisis that they kind of experienced.
Yeah, without sounding like too spiritual or something like this, I always tell people if they, you get to that moment with your friends where you see they want to understand it, but they're being held back because of beliefs, bad
Mhm.
experiences, like you say. And I
Mhm.
always tell them, like, listen, I'll leave you with one thought. To me, Bitcoin is hope because hope unites so many things. And if you look at the human species, right, we're on a planet spinning in space around another huge fireball spinning in whatever. And we have these problems if we like align with a certain way of living, or if we agree on that this person can now do whatever they want. Um, and I always tell them, like, to me, Bitcoin is hope because it really turns everything relative, and it shows you, hey, you've got so much more to learn, or you've got so much more catching up to do. And once you really took that humbling pill, I think that's where also the whole community behind it can start to grow. But obviously, it's super hard if people come in with these negative associations or whatever, and we kind of force it down their throats, we're not really better than the system we're attacking, right? And I think that's sometimes a thought we,
Mhm.
especially in the podcast, want to leave behind. To
Mhm.
sometimes also take the chill pill because we all took our
Uh,
time to get Bitcoin, right?
Right.
yeah, like
Right.
it's just when you feel enlightened and it hits you extremely intensely,
Mhm.
and you can't, I would say, settle down in those moments. Like you have to get it out of your system and yeah, that's the whole thing, that for the first time you saw what's actually behind everything, and you want other people to see, but they don't see that. They connect to you, oh, like this is a cult, oh, he's crazy, or like whatever it is, or he's arrogant, or like all sorts of things, because they're trying to explain your behavior or what you think through their personal view. And unless they see the thing that we see, we can't talk directly. Like you just have to be there to be the window for them, to ask them question, to provocative question, and not to actually give any sorts of answers unless they start asking questions. I would say that's the best thing, and I'm obviously I can guide them through questions, and I like to provoke through questions, because I really love when they tell me, oh, a problem, and I say, okay, how does your problem work? What do you face? And then I say, do you know another way? Do you? And I tell them, for example, oh, do you think that when you die, you can leave the stuff in your bank account the way that you want? How do you think that works? And unless they start opening that Pandora box in their particular country, they have no idea, or they say, "Oh, I'm going to leave it to my kids," and you find out maybe you can't in some countries, or I want to leave it to whoever. Like, no, you absolutely can't. And when I ask, do you know that there is a way that actually you can live it exactly the way that you want? And I just leave it there.
Right.
And I would say that's more effective, but unfortunately, people are not proactive about learning, because in the fiat learning, we are so beaten down, and through 11 years of horrible experiences in school or whatever it is, in university even more, most people think that they don't like learning. But no, actually, they were that was beaten out of them because when we're kids, try to force a kid to be still, and like that's a very hard job. Like they want to explore, they want to learn, they want to break stuff and see what works. Like that's the nature's way of learning. And when you are like in 11 years asking for permission to go to the toilet or whatever it is, and that's beaten into you, and you like when you get out of school, okay, now we have obedient meat machines, and how are we going to use that? And that's why 1% or 2% are actually entrepreneurs and want to get out of that and want to solve things.
Yeah, that rings true for me. The whole society, which essentially stifles the like the natural human curiosity that we have, and obviously we get educated a particular narrative in our educational systems that not only force us to learn narratives that are written by the government, but obviously it discourages us from free thinking as well. And essentially what I've got from what you were just talking about, Ivan, now is essentially that necessity is the mother of adoption. And when we're faced with that necessity, people will have no choice other than to fall down that Bitcoin rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think about the whole situation we're also in now, with we have these talks about CBDCs and all of these things, and what I kind of miss is just what Ian mentioned. If it becomes a necessity, or if you get pressurized into doing something, it's amazing what kind of ideas the human race can come up in just a couple of seconds, or literally in a couple of weeks. Let's take the bigger picture there, and fight back. And with Bitcoin, we literally have so many options these days. It's not just a clunky slow in quotation marks for the audio listeners, crypto thing that works somehow in the internet, because that's how it's being described in the media. No, it literally is a thing where I can communicate on it, I can send value, I can use it to store the future of my family, or I can just use it to pay a friend down the street because we share the cap. Whatever it is adaptable. And I think the more pressure people just put on Bitcoin, just really the better it becomes. And it's almost like a diamond. The more pressure you put in, the more beautiful the outcome is, right?
Yeah, and everybody that attacks it, I would say, all the food that is going out there, I don't engage in that food, but I definitely read here and there about the food, because actually that motivates me immensely. Not to engage and fight them back, because I know that they will lose. Like, I don't have to, but I engage in the proactiveness of, okay, what are we building today? What are we doing now? Like, motivates me extremely, because if we don't build it and we stagnate in any shape or form, we die faster. And I'm talking as a human individual or anything in nature again. If we don't grow, we die. And just last week, now 2 weeks ago, when the high fees started, the whole ecosystem, we were talking internally that everybody in Bitcoin that is a developer probably works on the fees right now to adapt in this environment. And maybe an attack, maybe just out of stupidity, which is, it doesn't matter. It's still an attack on the whole system, and the whole system again adapts, absorbs all that energy that was invested in it, and it's going to come out stronger and absorb it. It's absolutely beautiful, because so many people are in it. Now this is the biggest human plus computer network, but it's not slowing down and it's not shrinking. So until everybody is on it, and until everybody that bet on the slower horse actually finds out, oh, this guy that was crazy, next year when we go over 100,000 or whatever the number it is, he got lucky, and whatever it will hit them in their personal fiat story, like, oh, I lost my job, so what do I do? Why is even not about money? Why are you so happy? And all the world is crashing down currently all around us. So yeah, like they will absolutely, everybody will ask. I just hope that I'm enough of a guidance for everybody that asks me, because people out there will exploit even this. People that don't know, just like FTX, they will exploit. Oh, you want to buy Bitcoin? No, I'm going to exploit you thinking that you have Bitcoin, and actually I'm going to just take your resources. Or you want to do whatever. Like, we have to be that light guiding the people that actually want to learn.
Yeah.
And yeah, I 100% agree with you. And what I want to do before we get into Breez and what you do there, I heard you mention a couple of times at the beginning of our conversation was the term power projection, and I think it was a Jason Lowry statement, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed to have made a difference in your life. It seems to have had an impact. Do you want to explain a bit more about that, and then we can talk about Breez?
Yep. His thesis is based on the strategical implications about security, and he really views he had I don't know if it's his view or like he adopted lots of things, but definitely everything in nature is trying to fight entropy. Or in order, another way how he says it is, we're doing power projection game in order to protect the resources that we have. And I'm not talking about money or real estate or whatever. We are talking about from the when we were all soup, cells. Every single cell is trying to fight for the resources that it has against every other cell that's trying to take it away from that particular cell. And that is what he calls warfare. Because it's attacking each other and defending each other. But that's happening whether we call it warfare or power projection or whatever the terminology people are less sensitive about, but it's happening whether you like it or not. And for the first time, it's really simple that for all that attacking and defending, it's two things are important. There is a benefit of attacking something, and that's the, let's say, profits of resources or whatever. But there is also a cost to attacking something. And for the first time ever in the computer science, we found out a way that our bits of data in cyberspace are going to increase the value of attacking us. So the cost of attacking us gets increasingly higher and higher and higher because it's electrical joules, like electrical energy. And you can't have Bitcoin unless you invest electrical energy in it, or you buy it, which means that you invested, again, joules, whether moving things, you worked. So again, it's this energy trying to work to get money as medium of exchange so you can get this other electrical energy called Bitcoin. And first of all, we are increasing that cost for attacking us, but not only that, through my experience, if you're doing the best practices and doing no KYC and all sorts of things, even the benefit of attacking you is unknown. So if you know that somebody that you want to attack has 10 Bitcoin, and you figure out, if I attack him and I invest 5 Bitcoin, now the calculation is easy. Then it's worth it to do so. But if the attack becomes, this year is 5 Bitcoin, next year is 6 Bitcoin, and it's not going to be more in Bitcoin, but it's going to be more in energy. It's going to require more energy every single year to the rest of our lives. But not only that, but you have no idea how much is the benefit if you even succeed. So why the hell would you attack somebody that, for example, go to a venture capitalist and tell them, oh, it's going to cost you every single year more, and you have no idea how much will be the benefit. Good luck with that pitch. So that is what Bitcoin is giving us to every single human being, that if you preserve your property in Bitcoin, the states, the lawyers, the malicious actors in nature, like everybody, it will be increasingly harder and harder and harder to attack you. But not only that, but they have no idea if it's worth it to attack you in the first place. So they might actually start thinking, why should I attack somebody and not actually provide value without the warfare that I have to engage in, and actually provide value, and people voluntarily give me money? Because in the other warfare, I might actually die. Because if I attack somebody that I shouldn't have, they will respond back in the same manner. So it will go over time. But when I heard this, and because, again, through my personal story, that was the thing that hit me extremely hard. And usually I don't tell people what to do in their life. But when I heard that, I orange peeled everybody in my family. Like my 74-year-old grandma has Bitcoin. Like
Nice.
when I heard that, I don't care. I will do whatever is necessary for the people that I really care about, even if they don't understand it, to have at least some, because that is what Bitcoin gives to absolutely every single one of us.
Bullish, so bullish. That just made me like, yes. It's almost like it's an impenetrable force field, and it's only going to get stronger and more impenetrable over time, which will basically be too risky and too costly for anyone trying to attack that. Where it becomes an untouchable system, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Joel.
And I want to go back to so 2 points there. If you actually look at the world state how it is, and you really look at it from the nation state perspective, yes, we do have currencies like the dollar, which is the world reserve currency, and everyone is sort of aligning themselves about these things. But if you actually look where nation states have started wars, and this is a slight hint towards the American, because they're very good at starting their wars but never finishing them or winning them, it always involved energy and natural resources. Back in the days, even stuff like drugs, if you think about it, if you go to the whole Afghanistan thing, petrol, you're thinking about oil, you're thinking about commodities like silver, gold, and all of these things where the Americans were very precise in attacking countries who were resourceful of these things. It really is about energy all the time. If you just look at it from that perspective, there will be other metaphors probably who will agree on that point as well. And it's just silly to me if I then sometimes read in the mainstream media that it's using too much energy, because at the end of the day, if you think about something using too much for anything, nothing operates in that framework. We can use too much sun for to think about it, because like other places on Earth don't have that much sun, or too much sun, or not enough daylight, whatever it is. And the moment you get out of that scoping, I think that's where you really go, oh, so that's what maybe book number 1 or book number 2 that I was given back then meant. And I think this is where really Bitcoin's true hidden power is, and potentially why it's taking a bit longer than maybe other stuff that happened faster. And I'm talking about like other cryptocurrencies who have these huge dump and pump phases, who obviously get pushed a bit with marketing as well. But that's a good thing. Its slowness is really built into everything. And we have ways of speeding it up, don't we, Ivan? Especially if you want to send payments around the whole world.
Oh, nice segue, Joel. Let's do it.
That was good.
Yeah, like it's... I don't know who invented this narrative about using too much energy, but that's the most ridiculous one. Like, and it's like saying, let's say 50 years back for today, like the airplane is using too much energy. Like, okay. Well, now I bet the airplanes use less energy than 50 years back, but that was the point. The airplane needed that energy in order to fly. If you put less energy into it, then it's like whatever. Absolutely everything. People will search for the thing that's most optimized for that use case. Like, it would be extremely stupid if I put my washing machine to work 24/7. But it will be extremely efficient if I use it when I put the dirty clothes in it and I stop it when it stops. That's using energy. And if we use too much energy in the washing machines, that's okay. If we are wasting energy, that means that's not good. I completely agree with that. But that's the whole thing, that Bitcoin is using that wasted energy. And it's not that Bitcoin uses a lot of energy, but all the rest of the stuff that we are electrifying are using 1/3 of the energy produced. So we are wasting so incredibly more energy than Bitcoin uses that it's ridiculous. If we can have a way to capture all the energy that we're losing, like the terahashes will be maybe a million more than now, but it's using too much energy. When I also respond back to those people, okay, so let's say your brain uses too much energy. Let's remove half of it because it's using too much energy compared to the rest of your body. No, that energy is used for specific for specific thing. So yeah.
Yeah, or just from a health perspective, if you think that 1 week you walked 50,000 steps too much, and then the next week you're not going to walk at all, because walking internally uses energy as well, right? Different forms of energy, kinetic energy, energy within the body to actually get up and go. If you sort of go this turn on, turn off mode, at the end of the day, your body will decrease in health because there's no consistency in it, right? I think everyone can agree with all of the fucking medicine changed every 2 seconds, it feels like, that if you actually get up, you move, and your body does what it's supposed to do, that is good. So just to look at, even if it's Bitcoin, but also other energy things, you could go down the whole energy rabbit hole, that this is like something that should be good and which you could just turn the stuff on and off. That is ridiculous. And this is
you provoked me to think. Me to think of an example. That do you know that when Michael Phelps was professionally still competing and training, that he consumed 12,000 calories a day. Like this is, I think, 6 or 7 times more than what the body needs. No, he needs that because he was in the water, and the energy efficiency is completely different than just walking or sitting on the couch clicking the remote. Like, so that's exactly the same thing to tell to Michael Phelps, oh no, eat 6 times less because you're using too much energy. No, that energy was used in order to win the 22 medal goals that he has. Like, again.
Yeah, it is incredible. And it's also, to bring it back to the Lightning, to talk about that stuff as well. The biggest criticism in the crypto world we face is, 10 minutes block confirmation and all of these things. It's just never going to get to that mass adoption. And then if you look at Lightning, you sort of go like, well, hang on a minute, I can actually do, I don't know what the official number is, Ivan, like X times faster than the fastest credit card issuers. And it's basically for free at the minute with the current prices and things. Okay, maybe not at the minute with like the whole fees, but still cheap compared to what we usually pay for stuff. And it settles instantly. How can you look at this again and sort of think, oh no, Bitcoin is not made for the masses, or like it will never take off that I can pay my coffee with it? Are these kind of the things you guys at Breez also think about, or how do you guys go about bringing Lightning to the people?
I would say Breez, when it was founded by the founders, they read the white paper of the Lightning Network and saw, okay, this is the thing that would transform Bitcoin from a store of value to become this medium of exchange. And in order to become actually that, it was needed the right framework. And the way that they very smartly realized that the Lightning Network is this type of complex system like the internet. And the internet itself, right now, it's pretty easy to us. We have an internet service provider that we pay a fee. He takes care of the routing, the routers, the cables, like all sorts of things that I have no idea what's behind. I just pay some small fee. And on my personal computer device or mobile device, whatever it is, I have a browser to access all that thing that's behind the scenes. So we can have a podcast. I can browse the internet, all sorts of things. And that's how they envisioned Lightning. This is this complex system that people will need Lightning service providers. And Also, the Lightning will need the browsers, so the interfaces for, let's say, you have one app, but it needs to be connected to this Lightning service provider, so you can exchange the Bitcoin that you want to facilitate through your application, through your website, or whatever the use case is. So from that framework, they realized, okay, so we need to actually build this because it's still a complex system. And 5 years ago, nothing was built. And Breez were the first people that brought the Lightning nodes to the mobile devices. So when you download Breez, you don't have a custodial solutions like Wallet of Satoshi or anything else, but you're operating a full node on your mobile device. But you don't have to manage liquidity. You don't have to open channels. You don't have to rebalance channels. All the sorts of things that happen behind the scenes are taken care by the Breez Lightning service provider. And you just click redeem funds or send funds. And it's just like the internet. I open my browser in the Breez, and there we have internally, we built 3 interfaces. One of them is the wallet, and you can send and receive funds, whatever. The second one was point of sale interface, where you can upload the menus of, if you're a merchant, every single thing, you can tie it to the local currency or whatever and stream sats. And let's say somebody says, I had 1 beer, a steak, and let's say a dessert, whatever. Click that. Everything is managed in the interface of the application, and click create secure codes. And again, through behind the scenes, opening channels, liquidity, all sorts of things is happening, and you just receive money. And the third one is the podcasting player. In the application itself, you can play even your podcast. And if I decide to stream you sats, I click boost, send you 50, 100, 1,000, whatever Satoshis, or I click every single minute I want to send 2 Satoshis or 10 Satoshis or whatever, and the system takes care of the rest. And those are just 3 interfaces. And Breez right now is doing the SDK, how we can leverage every single developer out there that has no idea about the complexity of Lightning, and they just plug in the SDK, and let's say you build one game, let's say a Sudoku game, and every time that you do a Sudoku properly, you give, let's say, 5 Satoshis to the person that did it. And you have no idea how to set all that thing up, but you can create the game itself, connect the SDK, and now you have a fully operational global monetary network connected to your application. Not only that you don't have to think about the Lightning itself, but you don't pay 30% to Google, you don't pay 30% to Apple for transacting. Not only that, but the people that use your game right now can interact without leaving the app. So I can send you Satoshis from me to you in the app itself. And not only that, but I can send, let's say, from my game, if you open it up with other things, let's say like Nostr. Right now, I can have one client in Nostr, send Satoshis through every single jurisdiction, send it from Twitter to, let's say, to Instagram in the Nostr protocol. I'm using quotation marks for the audio listeners because there's no Twitter and there's no Instagram, but a client like Twitter to go to a client to like Instagram. And if now the markets are open for the first time ever globally on a single monetary protocol that everybody agrees with, and nobody can systemically exploit you. Nobody can take away the Satoshis that you have unless you are the one that did not protect them. So I'm so excited, and a lots of stuffs are coming out that all the people that think that knew Bitcoin and try to attack it by, oh, it's slow. No, you are just the lazy one that didn't invest the time to really understand what's happening beneath the surface and try to compete with Bitcoin. It is just like, I don't know when exactly it happened, when silver tried to compete with gold. Like over time, when you compare them side by side with enough time, the clear winner will be revealed. Just because the momentary, let's say in these 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, when people were building, people took a shortcut to exploit the people that are lazy. I love how the people that think that they understood Bitcoin and, oh, I'm going to compete and make it better, they attract the most dumb people. And unfortunately, the dumb people pay the price in that scenario. But yeah, everything will be revealed with enough time.
And you know, two things on the Lightning side. Like the one argument I always hear is like, oh, you know, it's centralized, it's more centralized than if I do like on chain and all of these things. And you just gave the perfect example. Yes, if you want to use, if you like don't want to rebalance, open and closing up your own channels and all of these things, you can use a Lightning service provider that is non-custodial, like you guys. If you want to fully run your node, if you're having fun with these things and you want to use a part of your Bitcoin you may be saving, you throw that in your channels. Maybe you run a routing node, maybe you run a public node, you run private nodes, whatever it is. You have these options, right? And to look at this and sort of then generalize like everything in Lightning is centralized, that's what really bugs me. And the second thing is always, if you hear like, oh, Lightning is still small compared to like how many Bitcoins are out there. And I kind of go, well, but like, let's look how like Lightning is being used. I would argue most of the Lightning transactions are indeed micropayments. And like, do I need to have this liquidity always to do these payments? No. Maybe I want to pay someone, I open a channel, I close a channel. Maybe I have one open all the time that people can use it, whatever it is. But it really is that that relationship of I go in there, I do my stuff, and I get out there. And if I then want to continue use it, I'll anyway leave it in my Lightning wallet or leave it on my node. And if not, you know, I can go back to Bitcoin, I can exchange it again, I can open up a channel, and all it takes is literally the transaction in and out of the on-chain. And to look at this and then I kind of go like, and you then think that because it's like 5.5 or 6,000 or just 5,000 Bitcoin, that is small. That's a pretty arrogant stand in my book to take. And it's the same thing as saying, oh, you know, we don't invest in Bitcoin or we don't use Bitcoin because it uses too much energy or it's being used by criminals. To me, that's sort of the same mindset there. But, you know, we'll give it time. And as you said, the guys who are courageous enough and who are curious enough to get in there early, they'll probably get a huge advantage out of this because you just get to see these amazing things being built.
One thing about how much Bitcoin is going to flow into the Lightning Network, because Breez is completely open sourced. And even if you use our SDK, we did it in such a way that we are not going to vendor lock to Breez. If you want to use a different Lightning service provider, you can you can use another Lightning service provider. Or if you want to be your own Lightning service provider, again, you can be. Like all those optionalities are open because there's an incentive on the Lightning Network that you can have an actual yield. The only thing that the cryptos had on us, like where is the yield, and doing inflation in their token and think that that's the yield, like that's moronic. That's the fiat system. But just on a local small scale, and let's see how much snake oil we can sell to the people that don't know. But in the Lightning Network itself, it's in order to send sats, let's say from me to you, and let's say I go through another node, people that, those Satoshis that travel through those nodes get a very, very small cut. And that's the incentive for the Lightning service providers to do that. because those small fees are their actual yield. That's not inflation. And not only that, but let's say that you're not even a developer. I gave the use case for the SDK, but you're not even a developer, but you're an investor, and you don't know what to do with. Let's say you bought 1,000 coins, and you say, "Oh, I'm in cold storage, but they are not generating yield." What are you going to do? So now you have an actual incentive. Okay, I'm going to put aside, let's say, 20, 30, 50% of my Bitcoin to the Lightning Network. I'm going to connect to a Lightning service provider. They're going to manage all that thing. I do absolutely nothing other than setting up my own node, and that's it. And the Lightning service provider takes care of everything. And you're providing a jump to the Lightning network with 500 coins. Let's say you are going to put 50% of the 1,000. 500 coins are introduced, and on those 500 coins, the Lightning service provider and the investor will split the fees. So there's an incentive not only for developers to integrate Lightning, but also for the big money to come into Lightning. But they were not coming into Lightning because that was not available yet. And good luck when that thing goes viral.
I mean, the whole construction of the Lightning Network and how it operates is still something I'm grappling with understanding. But you've really helped me kind of see the landscape better through your explanation, and quite a lot of what you said about how the evolution of the Lightning Network and how it's growing comes back to the whole power projection thing. It's like the strongest gene will win, right? And the people will choose the option that is the right option over time. And I think this is where you come in, Ivan, in that space and doing the valuable work that you are doing in the Lightning Network and with Breez. So for me as an old man sat here in my 40s trying to understand the nuances of the Lightning Network is difficult. So we need more people like you in the space. So before we wrap up this episode today, is there anything that we haven't spoke about that you was hoping to, and not only that, where can people find you?
I'm everywhere in every social media because I'm kind of the one of the two people from the team that's more public, the visible faces. The actual soldiers are the developers, and they were quite busy the last 2 weeks adapting into this high fee environment. And even on our side, it forced us again through this attack to evolve, to adapt. Because if you don't adapt, then you just comply and okay, then I die. No, it's an adaptable system. We are adjusting some of the things internally. It puts stress on us, but out of this, we know that even Breez and the whole ecosystem is going to get stronger. And those attacks, I would say, are also very necessary because if you're not attacked, then you become docile and compliant. And just like the fiat educational system, what we mentioned, you're going to ask permission to go to the toilet.
Right.
That's not the thing that we want. We want permissionlessness. And you should have it should be a God-given right to spend the energy that you invested producing stuff in a form of money or anything else to be spent exactly the way that you want without anybody intervening. Like, what should be your will? Whether I should buy something to for a party, whether I should buy whatever I want. I invested my energy into it, and that's my God-given right. And going back to the original question, everybody in the could reach me out in Twitter, LinkedIn, nostr. I'm most known as Naku 2000 in ACKOO 2000. So yeah, reach out everywhere. Orange Peel Up, Nostr, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're an Orange brother or a sister, and you're always welcome.
Are you going to be at any of the conferences in Europe, or?
Currently, I don't have plans for the, let's say, next 3 months or so, but our team is going to, part of our team is going to the Prague
Oh,
Bitcoin
nice.
conference that's happening next month. They're going to also showcase the SDK. So,
Nice.
yeah, like I'm very excited about that because you're a developer and you got wall blocked or spam blocked or wall gather and blocked all sorts of ways in this ecosystem for your application. And now we're going to say, okay, you have no borders, no KYC, no AML, no knowledge gap, no nothing. Just relaunch the app that didn't work, plug in the SDK, and you have a global monetary network with every single Bitcoiner that can send you fractions of a penny to your ecosystem without any permission and see what happens.
That's
Yeah,
the perfect ending to this episode. That's amazing. Like,
they turned lightning into a breeze.
hey.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Nice. Ivan, it was great having you on, and you're more than welcome back in the future when the SDK and stuff is out, because I guess there will be
Yeah.
an exciting update. I'll link all of your social handles and stuff in the show notes. And yeah, already looking forward to hopefully also meeting you in person at one of the events in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Gladly. Like anybody, even now, the SDK, because we are open sourced, if you like the SDK, use it. But we are still, yeah, building on it to be the maximum reliability.
Nice. Nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Ivan, thank you for letting us explore your Bitcoin rabbit hole, and it's been fascinating. And I'll see you again soon.
sure thing. Thanks for
Ciao,
having me.
ciao.
Bye.